Eric starting off the live stream with the comment of the year, and there it goes. It's not a baseball bat. It is a hiking stick, but it's close enough. Shout out to you, Eric. And all jokes aside, shout out to everyone here in the live show or watching replay for the latest episode of Mets Free Agent Frenzy. I mean, it's Correa watch at this point, folks. There's nothing else that really needs to be said. We are all waiting desperately, anxiously to find out when and if Carlos Correa is in fact going to land in Queens. We have a lot to get into. I have a lot more raw thoughts I want to share. We have some more news that did come out shortly prior to the live stream beginning around 8:45 p.m. Eastern time today. That being this, I can't even speak, December 29th. We're getting really close to the new year, folks. Is Carlos Correa even going to find a deal happen prior to New Year's Day? I mean, who knows at this point, but we have a lot to get into. I have some raw thoughts. And as long as everything goes accordingly, I do want to wrap up the show by taking some live callers. So for everyone in the live streams, you know the drill. Make sure to watch all the way until the end. For people on replay, make sure you don't miss live streams. That way you get an opportunity like this that is in fact going to happen tonight. But again, appreciate everyone first chiming in. How's it going, Grant at Jenny Metz? Appreciate you, my brother. Shout out to my roughly 600 live viewers already in the chat. Greatly appreciate every single one of you guys. Edwin, thank you for the donation. Great support. He says, okay, someone let Steve Cohen and Scott Boras know that Tyler is on live. They can make it official now. LFGM Tyler, LFGM to you, my man. Appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully they get it. If they get a deal done on the live stream, that'd be amazing. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I'm going to be honest, guys. I expected heading into the week that we would find out a deal very shortly after Christmas, after the holidays. I'm clearly wrong. And from latest information that we've seen of very few across the land, of New York Post, whatever it may be, even Mesmerize, I will not be shocked at this point if we don't find out a deal regarding Correa and hopefully the Mets until maybe after the new year. I mean, who knows right now? It's such a big question mark because they have a lot of details that they're hammering out and a lot more positive things I want to share with you guys. You know, before I get to some donations, Joey, thank you so much for that. I'll just address it quick. Thank you so much for the $20 donation. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much, brother. And before we get into all the lists on the topics today, to your right, I do just want to say again, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, folks. Help us get to a couple hundred likes here in the live show. And for people on replay, smash those buttons. Help us get to 21K subs, guys. We're really close. I wanted to do a jersey giveaway this week after hitting 20,000 subscribers, but I'm waiting until we find out the Correa news. So until then, I'm, like you guys, stuck on what I can do. So I assure you that once we find out the result of Correa, regardless on if the Mets land him or not, we will be doing a jersey giveaway. But also want to let you guys know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs. So make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That would get yourself 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline is where the games begin. And now, folks, let's let the show officially begin. One thing that I want to make abundantly clear, I'm seeing a lot of other content creators, independent writers coming out and trying to view this Mets situation as if the Mets are absolutely screwed, that they're not playing this right, that, oh, the Mets are 100% not landing Correa, oh, that we should buy into the percentages of opinions from random executives, rival executives, mind you, that literally have no input to say anything better than an average fan. Do not believe any of that nonsense you're seeing out there, especially because there's nothing going on in the baseball world right now of significance. Correa is the biggest story. You're seeing a lot of people come out with content talking right out of their ass. So I assure you, do not buy into a lot of the things that you were seeing out there. I'm not calling out names with specific creators or anything like that. There's a lot of people that I'm friends with in the community, not only content creators, but writers as well. But I don't agree with what they're coming out with. They're coming out with strict clickbaity type headlines right now saying that, oh, it's this, it's that. No one knows, okay? I'd like to make that abundantly clear. There's a reason why it's so hush-hush with the media right now, and that's exactly why you're seeing people not knowing what to do other than making just random comment about Correa. So for anyone and everyone that's thinking, oh my God, the Mets have no chances and that, I assure you it's the farthest thing from the truth. Is it a guarantee that the Mets are going to land Correa? No, nothing's a guarantee until we see that pen to paper official. They get the physical figured out. They get everything figured out. But again, as Joseph says here in the live show, people talk 55%, 51%. It doesn't matter. All these schmucks coming out, these nonsensical reporting, it literally means nothing. What your opinion, just because you're an executive in baseball, it means jack when you have no say, no impact, let alone no input on what is happening between the Mets and Correa right now. Now, if you hear these percentages from a higher up in the Mets organization, reportedly, then it's a different discussion. But it means nothing when you're hearing it from anonymous sources or especially rival executives in either the NL East or maybe in the AL. How would you know? How would you know? Again, I just had to go on that rant quick. That's just one of many things that's grinding my gears as of late. Stop acting like you know shit when you know nothing, okay? Everything that I relay to you in the chat, in the live stream, for people on replay in my normal videos, I'm relaying what's been factually reported. And again, whether those reports amount to something officially happening or not, that is yet to be seen. But I'm trying to stay as, is transparent the word? I don't know exactly how to describe. I'm just trying to do my best here and putting bias aside with what we know, especially being a part of this Mets community. As much as I would love Carlos Correa, I understand why there are obstacles right now and why this is a more lengthy process than maybe we initially realized. So with all that being said, let's get in the show. Continue smashing that like and subscribe on. Thank you guys so much, folks. So I do see a donation. Let me address that first. And then I want to get on to what is the latest news that has come out today. Because there's a couple key bullet points that you see on the graphic to your right that I want to highlight today and why I do believe that they are important. But Charles, thank you so much for the donation. Charles says, what's up, Tyler? Hope you're having a great night. I'm having a phenomenal night. I'm looking forward to getting to some of your calls as well, guys. Give me all your Correa predictions for when he signs and if he signs with the Mets. I don't really have a prediction when he'll sign. Do I feel confident that he will sign with the Mets? I absolutely do right now. Nothing. If anything, my confidence is actually builded higher in the Mets' favor with this dragging out because it tells you clearly from all that's been reported and what we know is that they're trying to hammer out and get this deal done. And one of the biggest things that I want to emphasize with you all, this comes from what we saw from reports earlier today from Mets Rise and also from the New York Post, John Heyman, is that Scott Boras is clearly giving leeway and giving time to negotiate with the Mets, unlike what he allowed with the Giants. He gave the Giants a hard deadline. Then no, we're not going to allow you to look further at the physical and all this stuff. We're giving you a deadline. We feel you got enough time since we verbally agreed to the deal. He's giving the Mets time and then some because he knows Correa wants to be a Met and he knows that Steve Cohen wants Correa to be a Met. There's mutual reasons from both sides as to why a deal is still likely to get done here, okay? Where's the new mic? I actually still need to buy an attachment for it before I can hook it up. That's why I don't have the new mic set up yet, but it will be sooner than later, hopefully. Roger, I'm doing great. How are you, my friend? Thank you for being in here. But again, the big thing for me is that, yeah, Boras is allowing leeway here in these negotiations, okay? Let's see. John, thank you for the donation. Let's see. The percentage thing everyone is coming out with makes me believe it's just Cohen, lawyers, and Boras are the only ones in the know. 100% agree. And let's not forget, the Mets have acted stealthy with a lot of the things that they have done. A lot of the things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, it's everything, because we know that there have been things that the Mets have done in an offseason at building up to a trade deadline that we knew about prior. Like there was significant reporting to make you believe that that was going to happen. Charles, I did read your donation. Thank you so much for it, brother. But John, thank you for that dono as well. Let me get to some other bullet points I want to share with you guys because I do feel that they're important. And again, guys, get some hype in the live chat for people on replay, but especially in the live chat, guys. Are you interested in calling into the show later on in the live stream? If you are, make sure to let me know in the live chat. That way, I know we're going to have at least a handful of people that are willing to call in. I want to hear raw thoughts from other Mets fans. As much as I love rambling to 1,000 plus you guys concurrent viewership-wise every single time I go live here, I want to get some other input and some other opinions from fellow Mets fans. So get some hype in the chat for that too. We're going to do that later on in the show after I say everything that I need to say right now. One other thing that I really want to highlight here. Let's go to the bullet points. And this comes from Mets from Rise. Was this Michael Mayer's article? This was from Michael Mayer, who does such a damn good job on Mets Rise. Mets Rise is, of course, a Mets-related blog. They've been around for a while. Michael Mayer's like one of their head guys, and he does great. He's accurate with his reporting. He just does a really, really good job. And Michael, I've built a small relationship with him. Very nice guy. And he came out with this article earlier today on just the latest with Correa and the Mets and what a deal could potentially look like, right? And something that he highlighted that I felt was very important was that the Mets were already aware of the physical situation with Correa and were negotiating with Correa and Boras's camp for at least 24 hours prior to the official reporting that came out that from Ken Rosenthal that stated that, yes, the Mets have concerns with the medical. And this is something that really pissed me off. And again, I'm not surprised. You would expect, especially for negotiations to drag out this long, the Mets had this agreement with Correa 8 days ago already. Okay, 8 days ago. So naturally, there was no side reporting. Everyone would just be wondering the worst. Why hasn't a deal happened yet? So I would have expected at some point to find out about the medical. But for Ken Rosenthal, when he dropped it on Christmas Eve, that really bothered me, because what he emphasized in his article was that it comes from a source of saying that this should not become public. So coming from a source that may know that this should not become public. Like, so why the hell is this becoming public at this point? Right before the holiday too. That really grinded my gears naturally as a Mets fan. But because of it coming out public when it did, it was reported from Mets Rise that Cohen was clearly upset and not satisfied with the fact that that was leaked out from someone within the Mets organization. I don't know who that was, obviously. It says the following, and I quote, Steve Cohen was understandably upset about the leak that came from the Mets front office and has made sure that there's a small circle, including lawyers, working on getting a deal done with Correa. Now, this also goes directly in hand with what we know from Boris's side. Everything that we've seen reported by the media as of late is that things are a hush-hush. We know that. Both sides are really not budging. And what does that tell you? Why are things, what's the term I'm looking silent, right? Why are they silent? It's because they're in active negotiations and not trying to use the media as leverage. That's a big deal. To hear this, especially when you know damn well you're trying to land Scott Boras' coveted client in the market on a $300+ million contract in Carlos Correa, that Boras is not constantly going out of his way to work with the media to build leverage against the Mets here is huge. Now, could this change if things turn south? Of course, anything can happen. But it really stands out to me personally that both sides are in verbal and official agreement here that, yeah, for the time being, as long as the mutual interest stays there with, I want Correa, that being Cohen and the Mets, and Correa being like, yeah, I want the Mets, I want Lindor, I want to be paired up with him for the next decade. You love that there is this mutual agreement here. And I hope that's something that continues and will lead ultimately to a decision. But it just goes back to the initial report from Ken Rosenthal that personally bothered me, that you saw that, yes, the Mets have concern with the medical. Even if that were to become public at some point, it didn't need to become public then. It really didn't need to become public then. It could have waited until at least after the holiday. But no, God forbid. God forbid if you're not first to report, Ken. Trust me, you're not on your Jeff Passan shit. Jeff Passan is what you think of for first reporting things. He doesn't get everything, but he gets the vast majority. Ken, we're still thinking about you with the Padres landing Max Scherzer at the 2021 trade deadline. Oh, whoopsie-doo, it did not happen. And again, I'm jokingly ragging on Ken here because I'm just, as a fan, annoyed by when the reporting came out. I'm not discrediting him with his job. He has to what he has to. I get it. You got to make your clicks. You got to make your money. Let me get us some donations here, though. I want to expand more on what's been going on here before we get later in the show and answer some live caller questions. Jerry, thank you for the donation. Jerry with the $5 super sticker. Love you, brother. Appreciate that. Mama Worm, how are you? Happy New Year, everyone. Same to you. Thank you so much. David Ireland, great member, says, hopefully we can sign him, but just like we did with Cespedes, get a real good insurance policy. Ding, 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 ding. And this leads to a great point, David, that we've already spoken on to a degree. James, thank you for the donation as well. And Mike, thank you so much for the kind words. I really, 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 really appreciate that. Thank you so much. One thing that really stands out to me with this situation, and this is what leads me to believe that, look, we could find out news tonight. If you're watching this on replay, you probably know that isn't the case. We could find out news tomorrow. We could find out news New Year's Eve. We could find out news New Year's Day. It seems at this point that the insurance is really what is dragging this all out, because from what we've seen across multiple reports is that this is a lengthy process. The amount of details that go into the writing, the wording of said contract, how true is Correa on not wanting to restructure things? I find it hard to believe that a contract won't be restructured at this point. I don't think it'll be drastic, however. I do think it'll still be a 10-year deal. I'll be surprised if that doesn't happen personally. And I'm going to expand shortly as to why there are natural concerns with a long-term deal for Correa, and why I understand both sides, and whether you agree with me or not, why I stand firm where I stand on the Correa front on being okay or not with a long-term deal still. But going back to the initial point, there's a lot of lawyers that are a part of this process and this contract. It's not like what you saw with Correa just a year ago, signing a 1-year deal with a second-year option at $35 million with the Minnesota Twins, right? It's a long-term deal. It's a 12-year deal. So that's why the Mets are doing their best due diligence here, and you have to give them the credit. But I am confident in knowing that because we already know, widely reported, that the Mets, one, didn't even want this to be initially leaked because they're trying to negotiate the best they can. But more than anything, they knew about this and were negotiating with Correa and Boris already for at least 24 hours prior to becoming public. Tells you that, yeah, they're well aware on what's going on here. Okay, they weren't shocked. They weren't like, oh my goodness gracious, like Correa, there's a medical issue. How could this be? Even though that was the assumption as to exactly why things fell out with the Giants. They have this self-awareness. They have the information. It's just about hammering the details. But the lawyer aspect, the insurance aspect, these look like the main routes as to why this could be dragging on. Do I think that this is going to drag on for a month? No. Again, could I be wrong? Yes, because the same reason why, the same way I thought that a deal would have happened already. Again, I'm being proven wrong because little do I know. And this just shows you as a Mets fan like myself that I only know the little from what we see from the media, along with making my own personal assumptions. And that's just a fancy way of saying I don't know anything more than the next guy that does their due diligence. This has been so hush hush, guys. I even have, and this is not something to brag about, I'm being honest, and I've referenced this with you guys a lot. I know people in the organization that have intel, and I have not heard anything from anyone. They have not heard shit. Or if they have, they're keeping everything tight-lipped because they know how much risk they're at if they were to leak something. That's how tight this ship is right now. I knew about Jacob deGrom leaving the Mets roughly an hour before Jeff Passan was the first to drop that bomb. It wasn't a shock to me. I knew that already. Same thing with plenty of other moves that have happened, not only this offseason, but last offseason too, and the trade deadline, the build up to the trade deadline. So to not even hear anything from credible people that I know who remain anonymous further tells you that it's a good sign that things are staying hush hush. And hopefully this leads to us just randomly finding out at some point from the Mets, hopefully themselves. That'd be great, that we have come to terms and agreement with Carlos Correa on a so-and-so deal for this amount of money. Because at this point, that what else is there to do? Like, is it like, are we going to see a report? Is Heyman going to be the first to report again that everything's clear, that the deal's official? Like, I feel like at this point, it would almost not be a shock if the Mets are the first to report this when it officially happens, because it was already initially reported about the deal when it first dropped, right? The verbal agreement, if you will, the writing, but having to pass the physical first. So I don't know who's going to drop it, but I am definitely looking forward to finding out when and if that's going to happen. And a further report from Jon Heyman today. Let me get some water, then I want to expand on my next point here. So bear with me. Brooklyn Mets says, first off, someone screwed this up by dropping the word about Correa. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to become public, so who knows? Maybe the Mets would have had a deal already if some schmuck didn't have to go to Ken Rosenthal and get paid off whatever he was paid by Ken to be the first to break that report. I don't know. Assuming it was in the Mets organization, like what Mets and Rise is reference. But let's see. There's a specific point that I want to share with you guys here. Bear with me 1 second. Talked about, okay, the 3-team situation. It's been widely reported already that at least 3 teams, if not more, have already showed interest, have at least chimed in and called and see what's going on with Correa. The same way that the Mets chimed in on Correa when things were, at a standstill with the Giants. But what's been reported from Jon Heyman as of today, again, is great, because it's pretty much saying this is a Mets game. This is the Mets situation to lose. Boris Correa, they're not giving the light of day to other teams. Now, we were under this assumption the last time that we talked 48 hours ago here on the channel, but it's great to see that reaffirmed here, and I would hope that holds true, at least for now. As long as this doesn't completely fall out where, they're in a Western standoff and they're just waiting for the first guy to blink to shoot first. Like, if they don't get to a point where it's like dead silence between negotiations, not the media, but negotiations with each other, I firmly believe a deal is going to get done. And this is me putting all bias aside because it's just everything that we know to this point from what's been widely reported. And that's what makes me excited. I will say, for all the fans that have been following along with this process, I understand it's a drag. This has not been a fun thing. to be a part of as not only a Mets fan, but a content creator. Is it exciting knowing that hopefully when we find out when the Mets officially make this move, it'll kind of feel like the signing all over again? It won't have that same shock like it did that we saw with John Heyman dropping news at 3 a.m. 8 days ago. But it'll still be, it'll not only be a breath of fresh air, but it'll just reaffirm the excitement that you got with Correa, knowing that this takes this Mets team over the hump to new heights for not only the upcoming season, but for years on end after that. Justin, thank you for the donation. This is just too hush hush. This gives us something for the love. Just give us something for the love of God. Crumb, like both sides are working through it. The silence is defeating. Yeah, again, the silence is probably a good thing. But with that being said, you also have to, it just makes you think the worst and the best all at the same time. And from a fan perspective, as someone who goes through these same type of emotions, I get it. I hear you, and I'm with you. Matt Cass, thank you for the donation. I love Worry. Correa will be a Met. Bleav. Oh, trust me. I believe. I believe. Shout out to you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I feel very confident about Correa happening. But again, nothing's guaranteed right now. Grant says, pick one, Keith or Correa. Yeah, for those that don't know, the Mets, even though that this is SNY, they both have things prolonging with contract negotiations. Keith Hernandez has still not negotiated or received a new contract with SNY, and his deal is up this offseason. So they will, according to Mike Puma, start to discuss things further after the new year. But Wilpons, you schmucks at SNY, get it done, please. I mean, you could argue that Keith is just as important, if not more important, than Correa for everyone that loves the GKR broadcast the way that I know I do. The best booth in all of baseball. Biased, unbiased, I don't care. They're flipping amazing. But yeah, get Keith done. And to answer that, I don't know, man. Why can't I have both? Is what I would say, Grant. The meme, the gif of the little girl. Why not both? That's how I feel right now. Tell Grant it's all about winning. It's all Correa. Oh, no. See, you can't go against Keith like that. You can't do that, Metcast. I appreciate the donation, though. It is all about winning. But at the same time, Keith's a part of the winning. He's a part of the culture one way or the other. He still is. Thank you for the donor. I appreciate that. But okay, everybody. So we went through the list. And for people that are new to the channel that haven't been following along with previous live streams or videos, I just to reiterate once more, this has been going on. The Mets had this agreement for 8 days now with Correa. It was a shock at the time. I live streamed the breaking news at 3:30 in the morning when it first broke. It was amazing. And now we're kind of back to not square one again, where it feels like we're on the 1 yard line. Now we just need to go in there and score, as I said in my last stream. So there's still plenty of optimism on this front. There's a lot of things to be excited about. But now, and I do see some donos, so I'm going to address them quick. I want to get into what are the pros and the cons with this Correa situation. How much concern should we have as fans with his health status, with that ankle, with the broken fibula, that leg area? How concerned should we be? And it's a fair question to be had. How concerned should we be? Ed, thank you for the dono. He says, Worry Heyman, is your percentage over 55%? Again, it doesn't. I don't give a rat's ass. I don't care about the percentages. I really don't. I really don't. Thank you for the donut, though. I appreciate that. Justin says, by the way, my wife and I love your channel, and I love you and your wife. Thank you so much for that, Justin. If you ever want to come to a game with us, we sit right behind the dugout. Absolutely, Justin. I don't know if you have Twitter, but reach out to me on Twitter. I could do my best to get back to you regarding that, or reach out to me on my email. I'll put it in the live chat. It should be in the description, but I'll put it in the live chat here if you want to try to reach me that way as well. Here's my email. Again, thank you so much for that offer. I'll gladly take you up on that. I'm planning to go to plenty of Mets games next year and interact with a lot of different fans and really just get a feel. It's been amazing the past 2 years going to games, but trying to take things to a little bit of a new level next year. And I'd love to catch a game with you. Let's see here. So here's my email. I want to say it's in the description of the live stream, but I don't know for certain. So for that reason, that's why I'm putting it there in the chat. So there you go. Again, appreciate that, Justin. Thank you. Okay. It's done. I wish it was done. I wish the deal was done. But let's talk about the pros and cons. Okay. So there's one comment in particular that I saw before the live stream began regarding, what their belief, and I forget the gentleman's name, so I apologize. that, I completely disagree with your opinion on just like blowing off Correa once once he has 6 years left on his deal, and how he might be like a terrible player by then. Like, we don't know. And here's what I will say regarding this. Is there concern long term with Correa? Yes. That's the exact reason why the Mets are trying to get insurance on this contract and have protection in this scenario where injuries become more apparent, with that broken ankle he had back in 2014, in which he has not missed games since then. But there's concerns with the plate, the metal plate that he has in that area, on how it's going to be sustainable long term. It might not be sustainable. And that's what leads to everything here. I understand people who are like, we should not commit to a long-term contract for someone who hasn't stayed fully healthy for the majority of his career. And that isn't even regarding the long-term issue that the Mets have right now in the ankle, but because of the back issue, because of wrist, like other things that have been coming here or there that made him miss between, 20, 30 games around there on average a season as of late. Here's my counter with this. And again, you don't have to agree with me, but this is just my personal standpoint, and it's not changing right now. The Mets are in a win now stage, okay? Steve Cohen has been adamant about landing Correa. Regardless on how that looks long term, that is not nearly as much of an issue or risk for the Mets as it is for the Mets by not landing Correa right now, when the likelihood of them landing a similar superstar player for this upcoming season is far more slim. The trade market is not in their favor. This is a team that is not willing to part ways with a bunch of top prospects just yet. That's why Steve Cohen is able to control one thing and one thing only. It's by spending the money. The money long term should not be an issue for the Mets, especially with a lot of dollars coming off the books between Cano and McCann the next year or two. Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, they're only on for short term, right? The Mets, yes, you look at their crazy payroll now, it's going to change over time. There's a lot of money that's going to be coming off the books. There's a lot of money that will be coming on the books. But if Cohen makes this deal still on a long-term standpoint, he feels comfortable knowing that if we need to, say, eat a contract towards the end of it, whether it's, say, the final 2-3+ years, whatever it may be, he will be willing to do that because he has already proven to do that with both Cano and McCann. This is just the beginning. And look, for all we know, Carlos Correa can be with the Mets for a long period of time and be a stud for a long period of time. He could go from third base to DH and say more towards the latter half of his contract and still be a stud offensively. We do not know. It's an uncertainty. But what is a certainty is that what Carlos Correa brings you right now, and for the next 5 seasons at minimum, is some of the best play you can get from an infielder, a guy who I fully expect to thrive at the third base position especially. So again, if you're against the Mets going long-term for Correa, I understand it. I get it. And again, and I get the concern, but that's a concern for the Mets to worry about down the road. I assure you right now that they are not viewing Correa the same way that they didn't view Lindor, at least a decade-long contract, and saying, oh, you know what? Yeah, there's some concerns, but that doesn't matter. It does matter to them. That's part of the process. If it didn't matter to Cohen and the Mets, they wouldn't even be thinking twice about the physical right now. A deal would have happened at least 6 days ago. They do care about the long-term impact. That's why they're trying to protect themselves the best way they can while still signing him to a long-term deal. The Mets are wary. They're aware of said risk long-term, but they're going to take the proper steps going forward to avoid as much risk as they can. And then the biggest risk of all down the road is just the financial impact. And thankfully for us Mets fans, we have an owner who can handle a financial impact better than any other owner in baseball currently. So again, you think Steve Cohen isn't aware of risk? He's dealt with risk management his entire career. He's literally a hedge fund shark. Like, are we forgetting this? You think that he made his $18 million of net worth just clean, easily? There weren't risks involved? We know that. I know of the shady things he's done that's been widely reported. He spent over like $100 million just to get the IRS off his back. Trust me, Steve Cohen is not the cleanest man out there with his decisions. He's aware, okay? He's aware of risk. And I'd rather have someone who's been there, done that, and can handle things, can view things on a long-term projection standpoint, and know if this will be the best bang for my buck. And by God, if Steve Cohen's in favor of it, then so am I, because he's the man leading the shift. These aren't my dollars. These are his. And ship, I meant to say, not shift. But I just had to go on that little bit of a rant there. Hope that makes sense to everybody. I really do. Again, I understand concerns, but I just hope you try to understand more of exactly why the Mets are in this process right now of essentially renegotiating or just further negotiating said contract from what it was originally offered. Hey Tyler, so we're 100% sure this is about special language, right? Not changing the dollar. No, we aren't 100% sure. It is about language, but there could be dollars. There could be years that change in this contract. We don't know anything for certain right now. From that standpoint, we don't. The only thing we know for certain is that the Mets and Correa have been in constant negotiations and talks with each other throughout this process. That's what we know. So let me get some donations here, though, folks, and then sooner than later, I do want to start to get to some callers. Again, guys, if you're just chiming in the live stream, help us get to 21K subs. We are less than 200 subs away. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to smash those buttons. Greatly appreciated. And, of course, thank you all so much for being here. Help us if we could get a 400 to 500 likes by the end of the live stream, live at least, that'd greatly be appreciated. So thank you so much for that as well, folks. Let me get to some donos that I missed earlier. Let's see. Bobby, thank you so much. You are my go-to for updates, Worry. I check your Twitter at least 5 times a day for updates. Your enthusiasm is genuine. I try to be, my friend. Thank you so much for the dono. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Bobby, you've been beyond kind on the channel. Really, really does mean a lot. Let's see here now. Ali, thank you for the dono. Ali, speaking of emails, I know when I get in my email, make sure to check out what he's had to say, brother. Correa 2021 numbers, 148 games played, 279, 366, 485, 850 OPS, 131 OPS plus, which means that he is 31% better than the average player. This was in 2021 with a 7.2 WAR. Correa being a 7 WAR player that year was insane, right? And then we've seen this past year, he was a 5-win player. So again, Correa averaging around 5. Correa's on average a 4 to 6 win player every year. That's 4 to 6 games where he single-handedly is the reason why the Mets win a ball game. He is the main driving factor. Okay. And TC saying he's overrated. Shit. It doesn't matter if he's overrated. There's no denying that he makes his team a lot better than what it is right now. And I think it's silly to think otherwise, personally, because how many Mets fans would roll into next season feeling really confident versus having Correa? I'm sorry, but I feel a hell of a lot more confident about this Mets team next year on actually having a substantial impact when it means most down the stretch in postseason with the guy who's been there, done that, cheating scandal aside, has thrived in postseason regardless. Correa's literally the best player with wins above replacement for the past how many years now among infielders. He's a lot better than I think what people give him credit for, and that goes directly in hand with the cheating scandal and with him missing a chunk of games each of the past amount of seasons. Again, fair arguments to not necessarily love the guy doesn't change the fact that he's still a great talent, and he is. And I think he's even going to be better at third than what he was at short. Would love to call later tonight, Ali. Absolutely, yeah. Just make sure to chime in the show. We'll try to get you in for the call. Absolutely. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Last 284 games, a 285 average, a 366 OBP, a 476 slug, 842 OPS, and 35% better than the average player. And again, last season, he was 40% better than the average player. So a lot of great stuff here from Ali. Love the statistics, my man. Thank you so much for that dono. Again, just reaffirms why I want Carlos Correa as a Mets fan and why naturally a lot of you fans do as well. There's a reason why anyone and everyone that makes a video, makes a live stream, makes an article about Carlos Correa right now has been the talk of the town because so many Mets fans want him. So many Mets fans want to find an answer on what's going on. So there's a lot of important things. Do I think the Mets are going to get Liam Hendricks? I don't know if it's a strong likelihood, but I know that they're in the market for him. Let's see here, guys. Bear with me as I'm trying to go in the chat and answer some of your questions now. What do I think of the Mets picking up Bauer? No, thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate Trevor Bauer for one thing and one thing only. He got a lot of exposure on my channel 2 off seasons ago because we were following the Bauer sweepstakes so much. We even had his company What are they called? Shoot, I'm blanking. Whatever his company is, that they do the YouTube videos. I forget. Even chiming in the live chat. That was the only positive the Bauer watch, and the fact that the Mets Messiana Bauer allowed them to get Max Scherzer the next offseason. So it worked out perfectly. Thank you, Bauer, for not coming to Mets and us avoiding that shit show that inevitably happened with you in LA. Putting all personal beliefs, everything with this everything that went on with him aside, the Mets don't need Bauer. There's no need for him. And the only thing that can happen with Bauer, if the Mets brought him in, is some of the worst PR imaginable, whether it's justified or not. That's the last thing the Mets need right now, okay? They're trying to change that narrative, okay? They don't need a Bauer, especially a guy that hasn't pitched in over like a year and a half at the MLB level. No, thank you. I'm perfectly fine with what the Mets rotation is. I'm taking Kodai Senga and that uncertainty every day of the week over Trevor Bauer, who was a known sticky substance merchant, still has strong stuff, I'm sure, but purposely used sticky stuff and won a Mickey Mouse Cy Young in 2020 by using the sticky stuff to make a statement to Manfred, and that went in hand with the suspension for the MLB. By the way, folks, I don't know who needs to hear this. Anyone that thinks that Bauer was suspended as long as he was by the MLB because of the scandal going on with the supposed abuse, farthest thing from the truth. That was never the reason. That was a scapegoat that they used because Manfred hated Bauer after Bauer called him out for multiple years on end on how you're doing nothing about sticky substance and how I'm going to go out and win a Cy Young by blatantly using sticky substance, breaking it down in the dugout with reporters, everyone, and shoving it in your face because you're not doing anything about it. That was a counter for him because him and Garrett Cole hate each other. They were teammates at UCLA, and he despised how much, Cole was getting away with viewing as if he's this great pitcher when he was such a sticky substance merchant, and he wasn't wrong. Bauer wasn't wrong for what he did, but because he was so vocal, as soon as that everything came out with that girl a couple years ago, MLB was able to pounce and use that as a perfect way to get him suspended out of the league to just make a statement. That's literally the only reason why they did that. So anyone that thinks otherwise, you have no clue what you're talking about. But regardless of all that, I do not want Bauer on the team. No, thank you. Don't need that bad PR. We're okay. And the reason why I know about this all with Bauer is because, by God, I studied him like a mofo when the Mets were interested in him. I mean, holy shit. Man, oh man. I know too much about Trevor Bauer, if I'm being honest. Are you still going to start crying again when you don't get Carlos? Let's see here. Hope so. Will be so funny. Oh, so when the Mets get Carlos, I'll cry with happiness when the Mets get Carlos, Chris. Don't you worry. If they don't get him, I'm not gonna cry. I'll be disappointed, but the only tears you'll see are happy tears, and if they land him. If they don't land him, I 100% have faith in what Cohen is doing, and I trust what he's doing because Cohen has quickly proven that he is making so many of the right choices. Tim, thank you for the donation. It's going to happen, but I think next week because MLB also, but I think MLB also asked to approve it. Wardy 11 and strong. Thank you for the dono, Tim. I appreciate that. That's hilarious. And Thomas, thank you for the kind words, brother. Dan, thank you for the dono. Dan says, I'll be wearing a Correa jersey on opening day. Naysayers are just guarding themselves against disappointment, but it won't be necessary. Deal is overwhelmingly expected in both parties' best interest. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Dan, and I'm looking forward to when that hopefully happens. Again, hopefully sooner than later. If it doesn't happen, all I gotta say is if it happens on New Year's Eve, you better do it earlier in the day, you schmucks, because natural people like myself, we want to do something New Year's not. New Year's, New Year's Eve at night. We all want it. We all want to do our festivities the way we want to do them, have a good time, and not have to worry about this. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe this won't happen until like freaking next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. At this rate, who knows? It honestly might be better off that it doesn't happen this weekend at this point. And all this just see the Astros win all again. That's crazy because last time I checked, I don't care. That's the thing. And trying to denounce what the Mets are doing right now is hilarious. The Astros are a great team. Could they win all again? Absolutely. But by God, if the Mets get to the dance, you won't see me crying. I mean, you will see me crying. That's a lie. 100% you'll see me crying if they get to the dance and lose. But if they get all the way that far again and lose to the Astros, it'll be like the Phillies situation over again. You can't slight the Mets in that situation because this is still new for them, becoming this consistent playoff contender. Astros have been the top dog of the AL for the past half decade. Like, no fucking shit if they win again. Like, wow, you got me there. You really went out of your way. Like, normal baseball fans are self-aware how good the Astros are, including myself. But thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that. What is my reaction to the 10 MLB umpires retiring? I did not even see that, Miles. I have no clue. So I have no reaction. No reaction right now. Let's see. All right, guys. Is it time? Should we start bringing in live callers? Let me know in the chat if you want to do that. And while we do that, I'm going to try to set up a poll real quick. So bear with me. Because I meant to do it earlier, but I'm a schmuck and didn't do it. And guys, we're 200 likes from 500 in the live chat. Continue smashing that like and subscribe on. Again, thank you so much in advance. Greatly, greatly appreciate it, folks. Let's get a poll here in the live chat and go from there. Oh, our ass in the jackpot. Tom is retiring. You hate to see that. I like Tom for obvious reasons. Oh, yeah, now I just put a poll in the live chat for you guys. Curious what you have to say. Send you a DM on Twitter. Sounds good, Justin. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you again for the dono. All right, guys, let's get to some live callers. I think that'll be a very fun way to, not wrap up the show because we're still going to be going live for a little bit. But let's get into this, shall we? What jersey number did Senga pick? Noah Syndergaard's former number 34, which is hilarious, and I love it. And that way you can spell it Senga with the first first E being a 3 and the A at the end being a 4, which looks pretty cool. Who is your favorite celebrity that is a Mets fan? Hoping that he is a Mets fan, Leonardo DiCaprio, because I see Leo in Mets hats more than any other baseball hat. So I hope that holds true because Leo's like one of my favorite actors. Like, I'm very much big into movies, very much really into cinema. Leonardo DiCaprio is like towards the top of my list of favorite actors. So I'm assuming that he's actually a Mets fan because I've seen him wear Mets hats far more than any other team. I got to go with Leo. Donovan Mitchell's a beauty. We know that. He'll be a Nick in a couple years for sure. Tom, thank you for the dono as well. With the Mets shifting their coaching staff around and Eric Chavez being bumped to the bench role, do you see him as their heir apparent to Buck? Yes, I absolutely do, Tom. I actually really, really do. Really, really do. Tom, thank you for that donation. Yeah, I think that's directly in part with why the Mets made that move this fast already. And that's exactly why I Bleav that Chavez duped going from the Yankees last offseason and an assistant hitting coach role to being full-time hitting coach with the Mets because he knew that the opportunity would probably come sooner than later to be the heir apparent to Buck, potentially as soon as that contract ends, if not before that, depending on how these next couple years go. Seinfeld's great, but that's an obvious pick. I'm not picking Jerry. I mean, everyone knows Jerry. I mean, I want a little different route. Yeah, we all love Jerry, but I'm not picking him.